Shafts that are better than stock for the B8 3.0T. Not currently on the market, but stay tuned for the future. That is an area of opportunity and improvements. But I'm not aware of anything on the market currently. Will a multi-map with map switching be in the works for those who want to be able to swap from 93 to E85 on the go, or even a phone app? Not many carry a laptop around with them for changing tune maps. Actually, lots of people carry laptops with them. Just about all of our customers do. It does allow you to, easily swap maps, even when you're out on the road. And if you can access Wi-Fi or do a hotspot on your phone, you can flash your car. We do plan on doing map switching at some point in the future. We do not have any imminent plans to dedicate our engineering resources to doing that. Our goal is to develop more tunes, more tuning features, making cars faster, smoother, more fun to drive, releasing new turbo upgrade options. I know a lot of EPL customers got really into map switching and felt like that was important. That's not our main offering is map switching. So it's the engineering, the tuning, the calibrations that you get.
Yeah, and one thing we've gone into a lot of times in the past is the time spent on map switching is the same time that could be spent on a feature that might be even more substantive and more transformative. So would you rather spend that development time on map switching or on something maybe flex fuel? That is a...
And customers may not agree with our decision.
Right.
The decision that we're making is one that allows us to bring more products to market and make our products for the customers that do have them more enjoyable. And there is a pretty small subsection of customers who think that map switching is really important, and we take that into account. But ultimately, 034 Motorsport is a company that we take feedback from customers. We're trying to create the best results for ourselves and our customers, but not everyone's always going to agree with our decisions. But it is something we will do eventually. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we're going to release it soon. There's much more important stuff that we're working on. What upgrades do you recommend when going stage 3 TCU on a B9 Audi S5?
All of the upgrades that are listed as required and recommended on that product page, of which there are many.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Just go on the product page for that, and we'll let you know everything. When can we expect to see some runs from customers on Pierce 750 from 034? Not right away. It's going to be a little while before we release that. We're releasing 710 factory catalyst support soon, and then we will do A10. Then we will do Pierce 750. Will data logging ever be available for the B9 S4? Yes, it will.
This is already something that is available when needed for tuning support. So if you have a specific tuning related issue, you can email tuning@034motorsport.com and our team can work with you to help diagnose whatever's going on.
Yeah, that's something we've discussed. Our data logging is not for like people to just use for their own enjoyment. It's specifically for troubleshooting or helping a customer. If we can't see your car, we don't have your car, we can't log it here, then we can send you a logging tool and you can log it remotely so we can get that insight. We do not currently offer like a data logging product for customers to just use data log. That's not the purpose of our data logger. At some point we may do that. It would be something we would sell. But you don't really see a lot of that on the market. Most tuning companies that have data logging are pretty guarded with it because a really good data logger can only help their competition develop better calibrations as well. So the reason a lot of people want it is also the reason why you wouldn't want it to get out there. Tune for a 2023 Audi S5.
Those are the newer ECUs that unfortunately are still kind of locked down. We're digging through them.
Yeah, but not right now, but hopefully soon. But that's Audi did change the firmware in that ECU, and I don't believe anyone's selling tunes for those right now.
No, we are one of the only companies currently supporting B9.5.
Right.
So we have the most coverage of any tuner at the moment.
Yeah.
But in 2022, things got switched around with the securities on those. So we're still getting through it.
Regarding the S34 intakes that were teased, how will they keep out hot engine bay air?
With the heat shield.
Yeah. So there is a heat shield, and then the heat shield goes very close to the hood. So there's a very small space between the top of the heat shield and the hood. And all of our S34 intakes, in fact, all of our intakes, used the factory cool fresh air provision to allow cool ambient air to come around the air filter. APR has a DAZA intake where the air filter is just sitting in the engine compartment. That's dubious to me. We would never do that. We're always going to offer a shield to direct cool air where it needs to go. The reality is the APR one probably works okay because when you're moving, your engine compartment is filled with cool front air from the front end. So remember, the full front of your car is open and designed to draw air into the engine compartment and move air through the engine compartment and down underneath the car to help cool the engine bay. If your engine bay was a sealed, air volume, it would just overheat very quickly. So air has to flow through the radiator and move down underneath the car, everything in the engine is producing heat. Heat is escaping, so there's airflow moving. The same goes for the intake. Even if you had an air filter sitting right next to the engine over the transmission in a very hot spot, it's still not going to be as bad as one might think because when the car is moving, it's the same thing. Like if you're sitting on a 90-degree day in a parking lot with your windows up, you will literally die after about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. You'll die. But if you're going 60 miles an hour and you roll the windows down, you will live forever. As long as you would live, because air is moving through the car. So it's the same thing with the engine compartment. I think there's a lot of hyperbole around cold air intakes and things like that. So it doesn't take a lot of work like what we do to ensure that the majority of air coming in is cool, but you don't need to seal the intake from the engine compartment. That's also not required.
And if you're really concerned about your intake air temps, then make sure you have an upgraded intercooler. Those are going to show way more for intake air reduction or temp reduction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Ensure your cooling system is operating correctly, and then the intercooler is what's actually going to cool the air going into your motor. But none of our intakes have hot air problems at all. Even when the car is stopped, there's very little hot air getting in there. I've purchased a used B8 S4 that has been tuned by 034 by Calgary Autoworks. Anyway, I can find out what exact mods have been done to the vehicle to upgrade and plan more mods for the future.
You got to talk to the dealer.
If Calgary Autoworks is willing to tell you, that's between you and them and the previous owner. We do not give out information from one customer to another about what has been done. I get contacted all the time about cars that we've sold, and or we service cars here, and someone will say that 034 built the car and serviced it for 5 years, and then they want to know like what we did to it. That's private information. So you could also try talking to the person you bought the car from. That would probably be a good idea if you can do that as well. A good tuner should be able to take a look at the car too, and with a pretty high degree of completeness and certainty tell you just by inspecting the car. Any new products or tunes in the makes for the B8.5 3.T platform? Yes, we have these S4 motor mounts coming out soon.
B8.5 3-liter. So supercharged is.
These are B9 mounts.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we do. We have B8 is a very well supported product for us right now. Off the top of my head,
I think we want to talk about it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Ooh, float form wheels.
We have
Sure.
full form wheels coming out. Yeah. But we'll talk more about new products being released. There's nothing, like Nick said, nothing too.
Yeah. Someone just asked about float form wheels for the larger chassis cars, like a 21-inch float form.
No.
Those will weigh twice as much as the forged wheels we currently offer and not be much cheaper because it does not scale with size for cost effect.
Yeah. Not necessarily. Let's just type per. Sure. Not necessarily twice. Sure. They will weigh more. Right now, this is where we're at with flow form wheels. We're coming out with what we believe will be some popular selections, and if they sell well, we can take the money we make from those and continue to reinvest in new models and options. We've invested a tremendous amount of money in the flow formed product line. I mean, it's a lot of money, so we need to get some of that money back out and make sure that this is a product line that's going to sell well for us. So if you like the flow formed wheels and you like 034 Motorsport, it'd be great if you picked up some wheels when we release them. They will be very reasonably and competitively priced, extremely high quality. So yeah. I like what you guys do, don't get me wrong, but you guys are sort of behind the curve on some things and every week seem to just have the same canned excuses of we put time into other cool stuff rather than keeping up with the trends. Just would be really user side friendly to have the map switching ability. They are very small tuner operations out there that are 2 to 3 man shows that have phone apps even. But cool, thanks again. No, there aren't. There is no 2 to 3 man operation in the Volkswagen Audi aftermarket that has map switching. I mean,
there was one and it went out of business.
There was the one. Tony Chick was a 1 man operation and he's gone. We might be behind the curve on this one thing. APR came out with map switching. I think I got an email from one of their engineers in 2002 that showed me their first EMCS map switching chip. So I've known about map switching for 20 years. We're not behind the curve, actually. We are ahead of the curve in B8's 3.0 T supercharged tuning. We are ahead of the curve in B9 3.0 T turbocharged tuning. We are currently working on brand new GTI MG1, GTI Evo, and 8Y S3 tuning. Our goal isn't to be the company that releases everything first. And we certainly don't want to be the company that never releases anything and is totally behind the curve. We are right where we want to be and where we can be with the resources and limitations that we have. Every company, every organization has limits. And so what we have to do is take the feedback from customers. Your statement about that we're behind the curve doesn't change my mind at all about the priorities that we're setting as a company, because we are setting the best priorities for us and our customers. I know you particularly want map switching, and I respect that, but to make it sound like we're behind the curve or something, that's just not accurate. I'm sorry. So we will continue to prioritize and bring the best products to market when it makes sense in the timeline that we can hit with the resources that we have at the company.
Yeah, and we're not sitting here twiddling thumbs either. There's a lot going on that you guys will see over the next coming months for these cars that we think you'll really enjoy. So rather than getting caught up in all of it, just stay tuned. Hang out for some fun stuff.
Yeah. And you can switch maps. You just need to have a laptop and a Wi-Fi connection.
The new flasher is 1 minute and 10 seconds on average.
Yeah. You can literally do it from your phone with a hotspot, So it's not like you can't switch maps. So we're not actually behind the curve on map switching. You just can't do it from the cruise control star. And I would guess I'll bet $20 that you were an EPL customer. Yeah, this is the only time we hear this feedback this strongly is from EPL customers.
I think this guy has an RS5, so not EPL.
Yeah. All right, I'll send you $20. What products are those on the table? So we have several new products that we will be releasing in the next week. These are finally our highly anticipated B9 3.0 T motor mounts for the S4 for the SQ5, for the RS5, for all the S and RS models that they fit. We released the B9 A4 variants about 6 months ago, and those have sold really well. But this is the model I think most people have been looking for, and a performance motor mount for the S4. So these are street density, which means they have an increase in performance, so less drivetrain movement. You're gonna feel more connected to the power that your motor delivers to the wheels. However, minimal NVH, basically like a factory style NVH experience, but with more firm connection when you do get on and off the throttle.
Yeah.
They're also solid rubber construction, so no fluid, no valving inside to leak. No, the mount, won't ever collapse in on itself. This is a long-lasting product, and I think they're probably cheaper than the factory replacements as well.
Significant.
Yeah, substantially cheaper. So it's kind of a win-win. We do keep the electronics in the mount, so when you plug this into your car, you're not going to get any check engine lights or soft codes or anything like that. So it's kind of a no-brainer mod.
Yeah. I've had those in my SQ5 for the last 20,000 miles. Stage 3 for a couple thousand of those.
Yeah, it feels great.
Yeah.
It's not like rattling or vibrating or anything like that.
Fairway top. How many more horsepower on the mounts? How much does it add?
0. I mean, it could actually add more power to the tires within some time frame of getting on the throttle. That would be really interesting to measure.
Response time.
Yeah. Because when your softer factory mounts load up, that horsepower is going to move and load up the motor, and so that power doesn't get to your tires. We're talking about some amount, but yeah. So you would gain some power to the wheels, or like a transient's power response. So let us know if you have any questions about those. We're releasing those when?
Should be this week.
This week, okay.
Yeah.
And then this is the toe link?
Yes, MQB Evo and PP35.
Okay, so this fits the MQB Evo, GTI, and the PQ
Mark 6 and Mark 8, basically.
Mark 6, yeah.
So
GTI.
Mark 8 went back to the Mark 6 style mounting, whereas Mark 7 had a different sized inside and outside. So this is just rounding out that cap.
So this is part of our motorsport product line, which means this is no compliance, very direct suspension connection. So this could increase NVH. These rod ends are service, are wear items. So every so often you're going to have to replace the rod ends, which are not that expensive. But this allows you to adjust your toe in the rear suspension, which is really key for fast or aggressive track driving, and it can be nice on a street car too. Did we release our density version? Or
yes, those
Dynamic
are
Plus. Yeah.
those are.
So we have a Dynamic Plus version already on the market, and if you're only driving on the street, I'd recommend doing that. That has ends that are rubber isolated, so you get kind of the best of both worlds. But again, Mark 6 and Mark 8. If you had any problems with the ZF8 and the B9.5 overheating, this happens to me after about 3 launches, depending on the air temperature. I have a 21 S5 B9.5 with your stage 2 ECU and TCU. Have you heard much about this?
Yeah, if you do 3 back-to-back launches with absolutely no driving in between and don't allow the car to cool down a little bit, our safety strategies won't let you re-enable launch control so that you don't damage the vehicle. So the transmissions like to live in a certain temperature range, and if you don't drive around, get too hot. So, I mean, I've done 15 passes nearly back-to-back, and just so long as you do 30 seconds between each pass of just 30 or 40 miles an hour, you should be just fine. So literally cruising back towards the pits should be just fine.
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah.
Any updates on tune files for the RS5 B9.5 with GPF? We talked about this last week. They're in the works. Next up for the B9 RS5.
A lot of things.
Yeah. Well, What are we doing?
Well, there's the TT 720s, which is the stage 3
Yeah,
turbo kit.
that's
That's coming along later this
that's
year.
coming.
There's the P34,
P34
and S34 intakes.
Mhm.
That'll be coming for that car as well. And the
Res
front
X.
X that will be
Yeah.
coming hopefully later this year.
Mhm.
So a lot of stuff for that car still. And as the market still develops, there's more opportunity for us. And then high pressure fuel pump when that comes along shortly.
Yes, the high pressure upgrade. Will you offer TTE install kits for the B9 platform, gaskets, etc.? Yes, we're working on. I guess I hadn't considered doing an install kit.
Yeah.
We could do an install kit, but we're offering an entire kit with the turbo, the tuning, everything that you need to go stage 3.
Should I say it or should you say it? Mark, write that down.
Mark, write that down. Yeah. So yeah, it's not a bad idea. Any more B9 SQ5 products in the pipeline? Oh no.
Well,
Oh.
those.
These are not in the pipeline. They're released.
S34, the intake that
Yeah,
we
the S34, which we
teased, super duper inlets.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the similar stuff for the RS5 will transfer over,
Yeah.
and then all the other stuff for the S4 as well. There isn't really anything SQ5 specific left.
Yeah.
Everything else is just kind of for fun for all 3 liters.
Is there a way to try to tune before buying it? No. You have to buy it, but then you have 30 days to return it if you don't like it.
From day of first flash.
That's right. From when you flash. We're not here to like sell people stuff they don't like or they don't want. So if anyone buys any of our products and they don't like it, they can return it. Again, we're here to make people happy, not trick people into spending money with us and then being unhappy. So it's not a remarkable return program. It's just a standard one, but it is because we care about our customers being happy with what they buy. There was one company in the past that they had a flashing program where they would flash your car and then it would flash back to stock after like 2 hours or something like that. Again, that's a lot of work, and I think that makes more sense than kind of a dealer model where you're doing all your tuning through dealers, and then customers can go into those dealer shops and they can just flash it, and then the customer can just leave and decide if they want to come back or not. But we will flash you back to stock and refund your money. No questions asked.
Yep. Well, we might ask just so we know why, so we can always improve our product. But
No answers required.
Yes.
Does stage 1 tune on the B9 S5 remove the rev limiter?
I mean, yes and no. It sets the rev limiter to what we want it to be. It doesn't disable a rev limiter. In neutral, you can rev out to red line at 6,500 if you wanted.
I think they're talking about speed limiter. You don't. He said there's no tune that removes the rev.
I would imagine he's talking about the park revving.
Yeah, usually when people think of rev limiter, it's whether you're in park or neutral. If it gets rid of the soft limiter and lets you do it hard.
It doesn't say soft limiter. It says does it remove the rev limiter?
Yeah. Kind of trying to assume what you guys are asking.
Not sure, but all of our tunes have rev limiters. On the stage 1 files, we do not raise the rev limit. There's just no reason to. The factory turbo is completely done by like 6,000 RPM. So the factory red line of like 6,500 is perfectly fine. On the stage 3 turbo stuff, we do raise the rev limiter past 7,000 because those turbos have flow to continue to make power past the factory red line. We do remove speed limiters. There is an infinite speed limiter. So
as long as you're...
If you could go 5 million miles per hour, the ECU would let you. Do you want to address the in idle parking?
Yeah, so then we allow you to rev to the actual red line of 6,500 in park or neutral, so you can impress all your friends with the fun.
So I think that addresses every possible iteration.
How else would you guys like to rev?
Mm-hmm. Should I get any bolt-ons before going stage 1, or can I do this from stock, no issues?
Right.
Well, once again, the product page clearly, outlines required modifications and recommended. But on stage 1, you can just flash your stock car and you don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of stage one. That's the idea. So you just take a factory car, you flash it, you get a bunch more power. Now, what we recommend on stage one is a bigger intercooler and an intake. If you do those two things, you will generate a nice power increase that gets you almost to stage two power levels. You don't have to, but you will lose power and you will overheat your intercooler very easily with the factory intercooler. So I would say the one thing to do is the intercooler for sure.
With certainty, if the gains between stage one and stage two had to be percentaged out, over half of it's going to be from the intercooler.
And again, you don't have to.
Yep.
But it would be better if you do.
And the tune will accommodate those upgraded performance mods, the intake and the intercooler.
So if you go, to a hamburger restaurant, you can get no fries if you want. Almost nobody does.
Usually you won't.
But you don't have to. You can eat a hamburger by itself. Almost nobody does. Let's see. Will you be developing charge pipes for the B9 3.0T SQ5 specific? Are they required or recommended? We are working on S4 intercooler pipes. I don't know. Are they SQ5 ones the
I believe
same?
the up pipe is the same. I would need to.
We need to look.
There might be minor differences, but it didn't really show itself as something that's necessary until stage 3.
Yeah. So the issue, this appears to be needed on stage 3 cars. This didn't really come up until stage 3 became more popular. The factory intercooler pipes, especially the pipe going from the intercooler outlet to the throttle body connection, they're pretty chintzy. They're molded plastic, and they, like I always say, they look like something you use for like a rain gutter system. So I have been hearing reports of on stage 3 cars of the throttle body connection blowing apart repeatedly because the plastic just isn't enough to like really clamp to. So we are working on a whole new kit for the S4. We need to look into the SQ5 application. Mark, write that down.
That's what we have.
And stay tuned. But I think there's plenty of people running them and making them work for now. So I don't think it's
tight.
Yeah, make sure you clamp everything tightly, that all the connections are clean. You can use brake clean to clean any oil off the connections, and then you can even use like hairspray, which is a popular trick, to coat the pieces in hairspray before you attach them together and you clamp them down.
Absolutely.
If it's good enough for, folding women's hair, up straight up, then
It should hold
it should hold your intercooler pipes. That's the logic, I think.
That checks out.
Can I buy a 034 Polo? What do we list on the site?
We do not sell polo. You can apply to one of our many open career positions and get a polo
right.
for free with that.
We have reserved polos for 034 official use only.
We have other shirts on the way.
We have many shirts currently in the design process that take some of our older styles and bring it to current models and current cars and current styles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, since we're talking about it, all of our shirts, all of our swag, all of our kind of promotional items all have free shipping now. So you can buy I don't know, what are the shirts?
My car
15
kicks your
bucks?
car's ass.
Are they like 15 bucks?
20 bucks?
Yeah. It used to be like 15 bucks for a shirt, and then it was like $12 for shipping. So now it's just 15 bucks. You can't beat that. Like, that's shipped. You can't even get that from Amazon. What's better than Prime?
Mm-hmm.
It's Optimus Prime 034.
Do we want to go over this state one every 2 weeks? Every week the same two guys come talk about it.
B9 times 6.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's just fair.
Yeah.
If my filter gets dirty for my P34 intake, is there an option for me to buy a new filter, or do you recommend that I just clean it? We recommend that you clean it. There's nothing wrong with cleaning it. It's a cotton gauze type material that's very cleanable. It's not made from paper, so it doesn't break down like paper. However, you can also buy a new one if you'd like. We sell them on our website. We should be cross-linking too.
We are entirely cross.
Yeah. So if you go to the intake you purchased and look for the also recommended products, and you should see a replacement filter there. They're not that expensive, so if you just want to buy a new one, knock yourself out. If you'd like to clean it, you can do that too.
The cleaning kit is available on that product page as well. It's a lightly oiled setup, not nearly as heavily oiled as some of the others.
It's not considered an oil filter by any means.
Yeah, not by the common convention.
Yeah. Will you be tuning for the 180 and the MQB platform cars? We do not currently have any plans to do that.
It's a thing that we're discussing, but there's so much going on.
Well, we have. It goes back to repeating the same old thing we say every week, unfortunately, which is we have to prioritize. And so the 180 market is much smaller, less desired in the marketplace than 2.0 T stuff.
Yep.
How often are 034 Motorsport tunes updated? Why are they updated? It's a great question. We do not have a set schedule of updating our tunes. We update our tunes for pretty much two reasons. One, if we'd like to improve it somehow. Recently, we released an update for a TCU tune that just made shifts smoother. We had shifts that were more aggressive than a lot of customers wanted. They were faster and more aggressive than they were wanted, and now we backed it off and made it smoother under light throttle. Under wide open throttle conditions, it still shifts aggressively, but under light throttle, it shifts more like factory, where you don't even really feel the shift. The other time we will release updates to tunes is when we're adding new features and functionality, which we have done recently as well. So when we do update a tune for one of those two reasons, we will email all customers who have purchased it. We will make announcements, and so everyone should know. If you're curious, you can log into your portal anytime you want and look to see if there's anything new.
Yeah. So we will email if there's what we would be considering a large update to any of your tunes. However, there are many minor updates that really are more internal procedural than they are anything that you would notice. But we do these edits primarily off of customer feedback, or if we have an advancement in internal technology. So if you guys have feedback on your tunes, feel free to email us about it. That's how we know when we can improve something to your guys' liking. But if you don't tell us what you think about it, then we can't make improvements.
Yeah. And we also will find stuff in tunes here that the customers never talked about. Well, it's not like we wait for customers to complain about it and stuff like that. But usually these fixes or improvements are such that, one, it's either on a certain type of box code or something that it didn't do it on any of our development or test cars, and it shows up out in the wild with all the variety and variation and quantity of the sample size of cars. We don't know how everyone's going to respond. We do our best to make these tunes meet the most, make the most people happy. But we are sometimes surprised to hear that people actually want it a little different than that, and so we make those changes as well. We just want everyone to be happy. Is there going to be any update on special features for the B9, same as the B8 B8.5 tuning, Antilag, advanced launch? Yes, we are bringing all those features to B9. No ETA or release dates, but that is something that is being worked on. Since we're talking so much about tuning, why don't we talk about the server for a minute?
Yeah.
You want to address that?
Absolutely. So a few weeks back, we released and notified all of our customers that we have an entirely new flashing client and backend server that we do all of our current flashes for Dynamic Plus tunes on now. So if you have not already downloaded the new flashing client, you should have an email in your inbox. Check your spam, or go ahead and reach out to us and we can send you the download link and get onto our new server platform. So on the first login, you download it and you have to reset your password after that. But from there, you can now use our new tuning suite. It's cleaner, faster, and ultimately just an updated piece of technology for us on our side. So we think you guys really like it, and we hope that you guys can flash more easily with it. Yeah. But obviously, if you run into anything, please feel free to email.
Yeah, and if you are currently a customer and you don't know about this, go check your spam folder.
Yep.
That's pretty much, we're getting these type of emails now of people saying, how do I get into the new server?
Right.
It's almost universal that our emails get flagged as spam pretty easily. So the other thing is, if that happens, make sure you tell your email client that we are not spam, so that you get those emails in the future.
And I would recommend downloading and getting all this set up before your next time you need to flash. Don't wait until you're at a gas station with spotty Wi-Fi to download for the first time. Probably safe to go do that sooner than later. And no, you don't need to reflash the car with the new server if there's no update.
Yeah,
you feel free to.
What about post-throttle body charge pipes for the B9 3.0T? Will you also develop intake manifolds? Currently, there's one option that is billet.
Both of those.
This is all stuff we have on our product development plan. We will likely do the post-throttle body pipes, and then at some point we will look into the intake manifolds. I think the intake manifolds are, as far as some substance-based modifications go, lower on the scale than the pipes. The B9 3.0T has this like really precarious setup where the throttle body is actually suspended out in midair, and the intake manifolds are now on the outside, so it's a hot V setup. So the turbo and the exhaust come out of between the V in the cylinder heads, and the cold air flows. It's actually a really nice setup. There's nothing wrong with it. But now you have two intake manifolds very far apart from each other, where on like the 3.0T, all the intake is happening in the middle, so you can have one throttle body. So now you have one throttle body, but then there's a pipe that splits and goes to each intake manifold. Audi could have put two throttle bodies, one on each intake manifold, which I think on a more expensive car they would have done, like the R8 or something. Get stuff like that. But on the V6 there is one throttle body, and so there's these plastic pipes that kind of run around, and they have been known to have issues and leak and things like that. I'm not sure what are the purported benefits of the intake manifolds. Why do people want to change those out?
There was one specific person who was getting port fuel injection backfires, so he was blowing the plastic intake manifolds apart. So his solution was to get a billet one. But currently,
isn't there a guy with meth that was happening?
Yeah, the only angles that are currently out there is that it gives you a direction to add potential secondary injectors, or just to not blow them apart with meth backfires or secondary fuel backfires, which seems more like a band-aid than a true solution. The port injection is kind of the one thing, but there isn't native support for that yet.
Yeah. No one needs to rush out and change their intake.
Absolutely. Fueling is certainly a discussion. There are things.
For the B8, will you guys have 18-inch wheel options for guys that want a smaller, lighter wheel?
Yes. Our Flowform 18-inch wheels for large chassis cars. I think we actually have a few samples.
Yeah.
That should be on a few cars.
We'll have 18 and 19-inch options. For the B8.5 S4 single pulley stage 2 tune, which one would you recommend for long-term reliability, crank or supercharger? I don't think there's any reliability concern with either.
From the engine performance, no. The factory crank has been known to, or crank pulley has been known to fall apart over the years because of the rubber isolator in it.
Yeah.
But
for stage 2, you can't do all stage 2 with just the supercharger, can you?
Yes, you can. With the 179, just stage 2 single pulley. If you do the 179 lower pulley only, you can do stage 2.
No, I know. But in any case, if you're stage 2, you don't have the factory crank pulley. You're talking about the factory crank pulley family.
Yes, but you could do the supercharger pulley up top with the factory lower if you want.
And you could. And that you can get to stage 2 that way?
Correct.
Yeah, the one reliability issue is not with our parts. It's with the factory supercharger pulley. So that's the benefit of replacing the supercharger pulley, is to get rid of that. I'm sorry, the engine crank pulley is to get rid of the engine crank pulley.
Yes.
The supercharger pulleys do not fail. So it's up to you. I'm never going to be like, definitely do one or the other.
Right.
There's merits to both. For a B9 Stage 2, I'm thinking for order of supporting mods, this person says, I'm thinking intercooler, then mounts, then sway bar, then intake, then tune. There's nothing discrete or empirical that says that's the best way to go. It would be up to you. So, it sounds like they're saying do the intercooler before the tune.
I don't think you need to do that.
No, I would definitely do the tune.
Yeah, enjoy your car as soon as you can.
I would do tune, intercooler, intake, motor mounts, and then if you'd like to start optimizing the handling and suspension, which I wouldn't conflate the two.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend springs, sway bars, and inserts.
Absolutely.
They're asking if a high pressure fuel pump would help out, and it would if you wanted to do stage 2+.
If you're running ethanol files on stage 1 or 2.
Yeah, stage 1+ or 2+.
Yeah.
I would say if you're kind of trying to prioritize this, I would say do not go stage 2. Just stay stage 1. Do the intercooler intake, tune. If you want even more power, do 1+ if you have access to E85. And then go from there. So, but the tune, intercooler, and intake are a proven power package that keep the factory catalytic converter in place. Yeah. And then again, high pressure fuel pump. If you have access to E85, you can run our 1+ or 2, our 1+ tune. If you want to go stage 2, you can. The benefit is pretty small. I would rather not go stage 2 and do the suspension treatment.
Right.
You're going to get a lot more bang for the buck if your resources are, if you're budgeting and you're limited.
Yeah.
What are your recommended alignment specs for autocross on a Mark 7 R?
I mean, that's up to you.
Yeah.
I mean, are these tires something you're going to use on the street again? Are they only for the track or autocross? Do you like the car to rotate a ton? Do you like it to be more understeer bias? That's entirely personal preference.
I know, but he's asking for alignment specs, not all the stuff you just said. I don't know. I don't autocross. I have autocrossed a few times, like 25 years ago.
Usually a lot of camber on those helps.
Yeah.
A lot of rotation in the rear is what most people tend to want. So 0 toe in the rear, and
you want to get the car to turn for sure, and then you want traction in the front. I don't know. Possibly toe out in the front. I don't know. I'm not an autocross guy, so
Yeah.
I don't really like autocrossing. I'm sorry. I get why people like it, but it is the times I've autocrossed and heard about it is you go out there all day long and you basically drive for like 180 seconds.
That's pretty accurate.
If you're lucky.
That's pretty accurate.
And you're there for 8
minutes
hours.
total.
6 minutes
Yeah.
total. Yeah, at best.
So, and you go to any track day and you can be on track for hours during a similar amount of time. So, it is, and then this is the other issue is Volkswagens and Audis are just not very good autocross cars unless you maybe a Mark 1 Rabbit that's really set up right or something. But it's humbling.
Mm-hmm.
You go out there and some Nissan thing from the 70s runs 10 seconds faster than your sports saloon that can do 195 miles an hour on the Autobahn. So
GTIs with really aggressive setup or Golf Rs with really aggressive setups can be really good. It's just entirely down to how aggressive you are.
I mean, there's obviously JXB's been at it for a while. I don't know how competitive he is.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
But he's done a lot of work on that car.
Yeah.
So by the time you get a Volkswagen Audi fast for autocross, it's not a very streetable car. And it requires some pretty major changes.
Yeah.
But if you were talking about track driving, that would be different. I don't know a lot about crossing setups. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Throw a fair bit of front camber at it. Go for 0-ish toe in the rear. That'll probably be a good start.
When you say intercooler, does it need the radiator too? No. Intercooler means the cooling unit that cools the air going into the motor. Generally, none of these cars, thankfully, thank goodness, need a lot of engine coolant capacity increase. This was not always the case. Sorry, we had a little earthquake. Used to be that, Audis would have overheating problems, especially, we're talking about the 5-cylinder stuff from years ago, the vintage stuff were terrible on track. But the newer stuff, newer cars have a lot of extra cooling capacity and don't really need it. Where they do need it is on the intercooling side. So you'll almost never hear of engine coolant referred to as intercooling. Because intercooling originated from a cooler that goes between, the intake and the throttle body, or between where the turbo is and the intake itself. So it's intercooling the air that comes out of the turbo and goes into the motor.
Do you want to talk a little bit about EA888 Gen 4 stuff?
Yeah, that's so we are currently calibrating in our group, our engineering group, which we do collaborate with Racing Line in the UK as well. And they've actually, if you want to go see what they've been doing, go to the Racing Line Facebook page or Instagram. They've posted some really exciting numbers there. And this is all the result of our engineering that we do in the background. We have a Marquet GTI in-house, as well as the 8Y S3. And we
Both of those
for the past week have begun the calibration and tuning process. So the next question is, when will we release a tune? We don't have a date for that yet. But when we talk about prioritization, this is a top priority to get a tune out for that. Certainly the resources for map switching and all that stuff would be dedicated to this instead. So very, very exciting. It's great that, the ECU was opened up as quickly as it was. For B9, it took a lot longer.
years.
Yeah. And that was brutal. So, yeah.
Yeah, should be very exciting.
Will your TT810 tune require built internals? We would let you know if it did. I would say initially, do not anticipate that it would, simply because the 810 offers additional airflow in the higher power band and doesn't necessarily increase the torque of the motor that much. So it's actually possible that the 710 will produce more torque than the 810, just because the 810 comes on slightly later, and the later that peak horsepower is produced, the lower the torque number gets. So no, I don't think so. I think when internals will be required is on big full frame turbo setups that produce that are capable of producing 700-800 foot-pounds of torque at the wheels. That's when motors would blow up. And you're talking about almost 1,000 crank torque at that point. So it's way above and beyond what any factory 6-cylinder Audi motor could hold. How well does the Wagner Intercooler setup work for the RS5? It works great.
It's magic.
In fact, it works so good that we were talking about doing one, and we've put plans off to do that, just because theirs is perfect.
Yeah,
It doesn't need anything else.
Between the heat exchanger and the intercooler core sides, it's incredible how cool that stays, especially over a 20 or 30-minute track session.
Well, you guys are releasing a ResX for the S5 B9.5.
Yes.
Is that, and we do have,
yes,
it'll fit the 9.5 seal. Yeah. I don't know when, but stay tuned. We will be releasing. Yes. Have you guys considered a newsletter for general updates to avoid some "when is this coming out" type questions? Could provide what you're working on monthly, advertise new releases or whatever. We'd love to hear from Sean.
That was Ryan. I didn't have that.
What the fuck is going on with Sean? What's Sean got to say? That's so great.
Sean, you have something to say?
Hi, Ryan.
No, Sean is great, and I hear from him all the time, so I guess I just take it for granted.
Yes, a lot.
So here's the problem with the more you talk about updates, the more people want to talk about updates. So it's a never fulfilling cycle of it's not like the more you talk about it, the less people talk about it, right? So the only reason it comes up so much now is because of how much we've talked about it in the past. The best thing is if you just don't ever say anything about it, nobody asks you about it because they don't know about it, and so the more knowledge you put out there about this stuff, the more it propagates.
Yeah.
We do send out a lot of newsletters and new product release emails and things like that. And so, you will get all that stuff, but
we're already by far the most transparent
Yeah.
company in this industry as far as what we have on the horizon, and it does bite us sometimes. And you'll see one of our competitors recently was posting about how they will not provide any ETAs on anything that they might be working on for the future, whereas we spend a lot of time talking about what we have going on and get you guys informed. So
I think that's how most companies are.
yeah, and we have to ride that balance.
There is a balance that we're trying to strike, and we want you guys to know about what we're doing, and then there's some side effects or sometimes bad consequences of it.
We got about a minute left.
Yeah, how much power does the intake actually add on a B9 SQ5 once tuned? Your budget intakes that's coming looks awesome. All of our intakes add about 10-15 horsepower on our upgraded tunes. The intake will not add any power on a stock tune just because the factory tune is a torque request, and literally the power that the engine produces is determined by the ECU, not the supporting things that you bolt onto the motor. So you have to recalibrate it.
And that power is likely peak. There can be parts of the rev range where it gains even more based off of where it's constructed the most.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Nick, for filling in for Nate.
We did what we
I
could.
think we'll see you guys all next week.
That is correct.
All right.
Not
Cheers.
you, though. Cheers.
No. You'll be here, but.